Good afternoon. And Fundi, thank you very much for dealing with all of those protocols. Mine is just to correct a few things, if you have missed them. Yes, there are a number of former deputy governors here, and there is actually also a former deputy minister of finance who will prefer to be remembered as the former minister of trade and industry. Today we're paying a tribute to a man who had such a profound impact on the lives of South Africans. It has been a tough time mourning my dear friend and carrying out my duties as governor of the South African Reserve Bank, an institution Tito held so dear as our famous governor number 8. Today we are here to celebrate a life well lived. Let me once again, on behalf of the South African Reserve Bank, thank the Mboweni family for sharing Tito with us. He had so much love for you and cherished you dearly. Those who know me know that when it comes to tribute, I choose to speak from the heart rather than from a scripted document. But I have got to follow the advice of Tito today. And he said, one of these days, I will convince the president to give an instruction that all ministers must have a written speech so that they do not come back later and say, I was quoted out of context. Tito carried his project of formulating policy through the many roles that he had played at the SAP, in government and in the private sector. I was fortunate enough to have my career run parallel to Tito's career so many years and watched on as he lived out the ideal. 24 years after our first meeting, I stepped into the role that he held at the SAP from 1999 to 2009, a job which might have looked very different had he not taken the medal of the first black governor of the South African Reserve Bank. When Tito became governor, the country was already 5 years into its young democracy. But the SAP, the other state institutions, was very much shackled to our country's past. Its head office in Pretoria was viewed as one of the remaining outposts of white nationalism, and for good reason. And so when we looked at the SAP management at the time, about 88% was white, male, and Africans. Many meetings were unashamedly held only in Afrikaans. This lack of transformation irked Tito tremendously. In his first months on the 32nd floor, he set his sights on reshaping the South African Reserve Bank's management in the hope that the upper echelons of the central bank would be 50% black by 2005. Tito would be seen as someone whose work ultimately did pay off. By the end of his second term, 60% of the SAP's employees were black. Today, this stands at over 84%, and 63% of the SAP's senior leadership is black and female. He was fearless. May we say, once he is convinced that a policy position is correct, he will stubbornly pursue it until it is executed. At the SAP, Tito fought fearlessly to keep inflation from ravaging workers' wages and the spending power of pensioners and the unemployed. He did so by championing inflation targeting, which the SAP adopted a year into his tenure as governor. This policy has ensured that double-digit inflation prints are relegated to the dustbin of history. A lot is said about Tito's commitment to inflation targeting. Little is said about what he said when the policy was being mooted. In the speech he delivered during his inauguration as governor back in 1999, Tito assured the country that he and the South African Reserve Bank would not allow Icarus, will not follow Icarus by flying too close to the sun. It was a fitting metaphor for the time. South Africa had entered the next phase of its democratic journey, and there was a feeling that the optimism that characterized the previous years would need to be followed through with prudent governance. As we confront the challenges of the new season of our democracy, our decisions and actions must be firmly rooted in the everyday lives of South Africans, a deeply held pursuit by Tito. We must hold ourselves and others accountable to putting humanity first as we endeavor to strengthen our country and its economy. That is what my friend Tito would have liked. Governor number 8, the Duke of Makgobaskloof and the Earl of Killarney. Rest in peace, my friend.